Welcome to Talking to Myself. I'm Carol L. Power, author of the middle grade fantasy Is a Snorer Snores, and the upcoming YA novel Early Summer. I have some exciting news. Orange Blossom Publishing and I are starting on the book cover design for Early Summer. We certainly don't want that black and white thing I have up there, do we? How it works is they ask for some ideas, and then their art people get together, and then they put together a beautiful cover. I can't wait until it's done, and I get to show it to you. Happy Valentine's Day! Well, I guess it's already passed, but I'm still hearing Valentine commercials on the radio. Maybe I should say Happy President's Day. But then, that's past too. Did you have a nice Valentine's Day? Did you do anything special, like eat a lot of chocolate, or more importantly, give Valentine gifts or cards to others, like your family and friends? How about your enemies? I like to make a special Valentine's Day dinner for my family. My husband and I usually give our daughters a gift. We gave them earrings and chocolate. I gave my husband an expensive man grooming kit. It had different soaps and stuff for men. He also got chocolate. Chocolate is always good in case they don't like their other gift. My husband gave me flowers and chocolates. Our neighbor, Pat, brought over a box filled with candy and cookies. She also gave me a bouquet of flowers. She has cats. Her cats eat the flowers. Valentine's Day makes a nice break during the cold Wisconsin winters. People complain that it's only a holiday to boost sales for cards, candy, or flowers. I think it's nice to have a special holiday to tell people you love them. Even though we should tell our loved ones, we love them more than just once a year. Some people worry that they didn't get any Valentines. They feel left out. They might even feel unloved. My question is, did you give any Valentines? If the answer is yes, don't worry about not getting any. You still did a very special thing, and you are still very special. Speaking of special, I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Rebecca Rhea. I met her at an author event last December. She wrote a special book that I want to talk about. Before we get to her book, however, I found out that she was adopted. Yes, I know that the National Adoption Awareness Day is in November, but since February is the month of love, I thought this was still a great topic. Rebecca, thank you for coming on to Talking to Myself.
Thank you, Carol, for having me.
No problem, Rebecca. So I know some families with children who are adopted. They have some great stories, but I'm always curious to hear more. What was it like?
I was in a foundling home in Chicago on Polk Street, but it is no longer there.
A foundling home is not an orphanage, but a place where young women usually lived while they were pregnant and deliver their babies at a hospital, hoping their child will be adopted. And that's where your parents found you and eventually adopted you. Tell us, what was it like growing up?
I was raised in a very loving home. My parents were wonderful Christian people. They were good to me. I had a wonderful childhood with them. My dad always reminded me of Andy Griffith from the Andy Griffith Show.
Did you face any kind of judgment or criticism?
I never faced any criticism about being adopted. As a matter of fact, it was more intrigue by people. I remember when I first told my husband when we were dating that I was adopted, he was very interested in trying to find my birth parents and thought that would just be incredible to find them. But I wasn't very interested at the time.
But you eventually did. Why?
I wanted to search for my birth parents after my adoptive mother had passed. I realized then that my birth parents weren't getting any younger either, and that I wanted to get a hold of them somehow and let them know that they made the right choice, that I had a wonderful childhood. I was raised in a beautiful family, a very loving family, and I just wanted them to know. I thought that would be good for them to know that, and just let them know that the choice they made was perfect for me.
How did you go about looking for your birth parents?
After I had decided to search for my birth parents, the only information I could find was on the internet, which advised me to write a letter to Springfield, Illinois, and to let them know I was searching for my birth mother, and they would take my letter and match it up if there were any letters from her that had come in, and then they would match us up and give each other the information so we could contact each other. First of all, after I had gotten word back from Springfield that no one had been searching for me, it was then that I decided, I hadn't even prayed about this. I might be opening Pandora's box. I really should have prayed about this. So I prayed and I just said, God, I'm not doing anything anymore. If you want me to find her, then you do it. I'm not doing anything anymore. And I got word about 2 weeks later from my sister-in-law, who's a beautician in the suburbs. And she said, I was cutting this man's hair tonight, and I've cut his hair for over 10 years. And she said he has never mentioned this before, but tonight he's telling me how his wife was adopted out of a foundling home in Chicago on Polk Street. Isn't that where you were? And I was like, oh my gosh, it is. And she said that this man had found his wife's birth mother through a woman who has all the records.
Rebecca contacted this woman who called her back. She said that her biological mother wrote to the foundling home about trying to reach Rebecca, but they told her it was a closed adoption, which meant she couldn't have any contact with her baby.
So she went ahead and mailed me this packet of all this information. And when I received the packet of information, my husband, she gave me some of it over the phone that day, so my husband started searching. And he was on the internet all afternoon. And then I said, just stop. Let's go to church. We went to church on Sunday night. So we pack our kids up in the van, go to church. And, I go sit down, and he's not coming in. And I thought, well, I bet he's in the church office with our friend, the church secretary, probably researching, still trying to find her current address of my birth mother. And so I just sat through the service. I ended up at the end, they had an altar call if you want to come up and get prayer for anything. And I just went up there and I just prayed by myself. And I thought, I was like, God, I just lost my mom. I really don't want to lose another one. If she's out there, help me find her. And I'm standing up there and I'm just crying and praying, and I feel this hand on my shoulder, and it was my husband. And he came in and he said, I found her. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And while I stood up there, it was like God told me, I'm blending the old with the new. And it was just incredible. And so I just, I got all this information. Then I'm thinking, what am I going to do with it? I didn't want to show up on her doorstep and give her a heart attack or something. My biggest fear was only that maybe she never told anyone and she might have another family now. and that I would just destroy that family, and that was the last thing I wanted to do. So I decided after a while I would write her a letter. And so I was holding on to that letter, and it came up to be my birthday, and my 40th birthday, and my husband said, come on, let's go somewhere. I have a surprise for you. I'm like, okay. So we load up our 5 kids in the van, and we take off, and we're going wherever. I didn't even know where we were going. And he said, I said, where are we going? And he goes, well, I'm going to take you to meet your birth mother. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. I said, I don't want to just show up on her doorstep and give this woman a heart attack. And he said, well, I have a plan. So this is really it's crazy. We had Nextel phones, walkie-talkie phones. And so he said, we're going to go and we're going to find her house. I have her address. He said, I have a plan. We're going to, you and the kids stay in the car. We'll have our phones on, put yours on mute so you can hear me, but, I can't hear you or the kids. And he said, you just sit in it. And he parked a half a block from her home. I could see him walking to her home, but it was far enough away, that I couldn't see anyone by the door or anything like that. And he said, you wait in the car. I'm going to go up and talk to her. So I was a nervous wreck, and the kids were all in the van together. And he goes up to her door, and I could hear him, and he said, are you Janet Pratt? And she said, yes. And he said, did you have a daughter, a little girl in 1964? And she said, yes, I did. And he said, well, that's my wife. And he said, would you like to meet her? And she said, no, I don't, And he said, well, here, I have a letter from her. And so she very reluctantly barely opened the door, just a crack for him to slip this letter in. And then she shut it and locked it real fast. And he just stood there waiting. And so she read the letter, and then she opened it again, the door again, and she said, is that my daughter right there? There was some girl or woman walking by, and he said, no, she's parked in the car down the street a little ways with their children. And she said, oh, okay. And he went on to tell her how I had received a lot of letters that she had written to the foundling home and how they sent them to me and things like that. And then she said again, well, maybe I would like to meet her then. I would like to meet her. So he told me, my husband told me, okay, he said, I'm going to walk towards you and you start walking towards me. And so, and I'll get in the car, I'll take the kids for lunch or something. You spend as long as you want and visit with her. So I was so nervous, and I walked over there. I get to the door and I see her for the first time. And I always thought in my mind that, this is going to be a stranger to me. My parents were the ones who raised me all my life and loved me and were there for everything, all the ups, the downs, everything. Pretty, the ugly, everything. And this woman's going to be a stranger to me. But I saw her, and I just immediately felt just this connection and just a love for her.
I don't know how you can tell it without crying. So you were part of her life for 9 years before she passed, since she had no other family members. What a gift. Rebecca also reached out to her biological father. That's an amazing story too. But unfortunately, there's only so much time I can devote to this podcast. Rebecca, tell us about your book.
So this is Great is God's Faithfulness. And I've seen it over and over and over in my life. I've seen His faithfulness. And this book is about that. My husband and I, we married very young. We started dating. He was actually 14. I was 16. We couldn't really date and go out alone, but we were boyfriend, girlfriend, and he'd come to my house. I'd go to his house, and we'd visit with their families, things like that. But we've been together a long time. We've been through a lot in our lives. Life hasn't been completely a bed of roses all along, And so when I look back and I see every situation where God was faithful to do what He said He was going to do, to stick to the promises He's given us in His Word in the Bible. Our life has just been an incredible journey with God leading us through the hard times. showing his faithfulness over and over. And so my book tells of those true life stories. It's a memoir. There's incredible miracles, many miracles that have happened since I finished the book. And so I think anyone that reads it would be encouraged. That would be the main thing. It is a book to bring encouragement. It's a book to help you to realize that, hey, we are not special people. We're just ordinary people, and we're no one special, but, God's no respecter of persons either. And what he's done for us, he can do for you.
We could all use a little encouragement these days, right? So where can people find your book?
You can find my book on westbowpress.com. You can also find my book on amazon.com. My book is also at the Christian Book Distributors website. Barnes & Noble carries my book.
People are going to want to get a hold of you, Rebecca. How might they do that?
People can find me on Facebook. You can find me there. I also have an email.
Rebecca is working on another book called In Every Season. Rebecca, thank you again for coming on my show. It was great to hear your story.
It's just been a wonderful experience, and I hope that your listeners enjoy our conversation. Thanks again.
Check out this month's blog if you want the rest of Rebecca's story and how she met her father. February 2022 is drawing to a close. It's a short month, but feels pretty long. What's happening in March? Well, Ash Wednesday and St. Patrick's Day come to mind. But there are a whole lot of other holidays, like National Frozen Fruit Day on March 6th, Get Over It Day on March 9th, National Awesome Day on March 10th, Let's Laugh Day on March 19th, which is also the feast of St. Joseph, Extraterrestrial Abductions Day is on March 20th, so be careful and don't get abducted. It's also the birthday month for my daughter, Elizabeth, a lot of my friends, and relatives, especially for my mother, who will be celebrating her 90th birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. Thanks for listening. Remember, share, check out my blog, and a whole lot of other things that will help me in my pursuit of writing. Let me know how I can help you. Cheers!